You look at Ron Paul's total record of systemic avoidance of reality, and you look at his newsletters, and then you look at his ads are about as accurate as his newsletters.
Now, if he were to get the Republican nomination,
He won't.
let's say he were, could you vote for him?
No.
Okay, the war of words is heating up in Iowa this morning. That's exactly what's going on there with us. The nomination. That was Republican presidential candidate Newt Gingrich talking about one of the men he's running against, Ron Paul. So this morning we've got a panel of Utah GOP insiders in studio to break down some of the recent attacks and tell us what they think is going to happen next week. Let's kind of give you the names. We've got Merlyn there on the far end, Darcy in the middle, and Greg here to my right. And let's just start off and talk about Ron Paul. Could he do it? Can he make it happen? Darcy, you can't start because I know you like him. So Greg, let's start with you.
Well, I'm a longtime Mitt Romney supporter, but I have to give credit where credit is due. I think Ron Paul is a serious candidate in Iowa. I think he can win.
What's different this time than before?
But I think that he's got a problem. After Iowa, he has to go to New Hampshire. He may have some problems down the road. He has a machine in Iowa. He's raised a lot of money. He should not be underestimated. But that doesn't mean that he's going to win. He has some problems with these newsletters coming out. I think he's got to explain it. He says he didn't write them. He wasn't sure that he even read them, but yet he was making money off of them. I think he's going to have some serious explaining to do about some of these newsletter comments.
We'll get back to you, Darcy, just a second. I want to go talk to Merlyn here next. Is it kind of almost inappropriate for Newt Gingrich to be so straightforward, saying that if Ron Paul gets the nomination, there's no way I'd vote for him, or is that just part of politics?
I wonder what those conditions are. Does that mean he wouldn't go to the polls, or does it mean he at all, or does it mean he would vote for Obama instead? I haven't really heard the in-depth answer to that. I've heard a lot of people say that about Ron Paul.
Okay, Darcy, now you can have the stage.
Is there any surprise that Newt Gingrich is saying he wouldn't vote for Ron Paul, who's beating him in the polls? What's so embarrassing about Newt Gingrich is that he couldn't even get enough signatures in his home state of Virginia, 10,000 people, to actually put him on the ballot in that state. And that's just in Virginia. Same thing happened in Missouri. Same thing happened in Ohio. He is losing tremendously in the polls. He can't keep this momentum. Truth to be told, people don't truly like Newt Gingrich. He has a grotesque record, both personally and in his public life, and I don't see how any true conservative could ever support Newt Gingrich.
And more information is coming out about Newt Gingrich. Is that information going to hurt him, do you think? Is it kind of, he's falling apart here?
Of course it's going to hurt him. The American people are finally going to come to understand there's not a single thing Newt Gingrich has ever done in his political life that he hasn't been paid for. And I think that's what's going to come out. All his ethical violations were exactly that. Fannie and Freddie being paid. I wouldn't be surprised if he was actually being paid to run for president to throw off this race.
Okay, Merlyn, you got to step in here because obviously you are a Newt supporter. So what do you say to Darcy's comments?
I'm quite interested in Newt. I'm not sure he's the right guy either, but he's shown me a lot during the debates. He's been the adult in the room. Newt Gingrich is a person who a lot of us say, when he was out of office, he wasn't so great. Well, he was great when he was in office, so maybe that's the trick, is to get him back in office.
Okay, well, we'll have to leave it at that, friends, unfortunately. But don't you worry, they'll be back again in our 6 o'clock hour. Greg will talk about Mitt Romney, because I know that's what you want to talk about. All right, well, the time now is 5. War of words is heating up in Iowa this morning. That was Republican presidential hopeful Newt Gingrich talking about one of the men he's running against, that of course being Ron Paul. So this morning, we've got a panel of Utah GOP insiders in studio to break down some of the recent attacks and tell us what to look for in next Tuesday's caucus vote. So let's welcome our panel here. Let's kind of introduce you. We got Merlyn Hanks on the far right. Of course, Darcy in the middle, who we've seen quite a bit. We love you here on Good Morning Utah. And then, of course, Greg Peterson right next to me from the Rocky Mountain Conservatives Convention. Did I get that right?
You did.
Fantastic.
Nailed it.
We're starting off on a good note here. Let's kind of start talking about, we didn't talk about Mitt Romney last time, so let's kind of start from that point. He's getting some accusations about this group who supports him running these ads in Iowa. Newt Gingrich is saying, hey, what's the deal? This is a little inappropriate. So kind of talk to us about that.
Well, if you can't take the heat, then, Newt needs to get out of the kitchen. But, Romney has been in the business, the private sector for 25 years. He's been CEO 4 times. As far as the rules with super PACs, you'd have to talk to some expert besides me. But all I know is the message takes care of itself. When you have one executive amongst the crowd, there's nobody else in the crowd who's managed anything. Not even a gas station.
But the fact he's an executive kind of comes back to bite him because he's making money from companies that's sending jobs overseas.
That's better than making money from Freddie and Fannie, which is or a lobbyist at $30,000 an hour. I tell you, Gingrich has some explaining to do. I think Republican voters want to know $1.6 million. It's not lobbying. Then tell me, what is that for? I mean, if that's not lobbying, I don't know what that is. $30,000 an hour, to me, that sounds like a lobbyist.
So that's worse than making money from another company.
Private enterprise.
Okay.
The beautiful thing about private enterprise is you can make, there's no limit. There's no salary limits in America. We don't do that in America. You can make as much as you want in the private enterprise system. And if we want to put the private enterprise system on trial, I think the nice contrast against Obama, Mitt Romney's the man to do that. He's been CEO 4 times. He's been successful every time. The last 3 were rescue operations.
Okay, we got to talk. We've got to stop this Mitt Romney love fest for just a minute. Keep things biased here. So let's go over there to you, Merlyn. You know, he's talking about the fact that Newt Gingrich has got a lot of issues he's facing right now. He's received money from people that maybe that wasn't such a great thing. But what does he do at this point? Less than a week going into Iowa to kind of try to defend himself and bolster the votes that he has already hopefully received.
I think he just continues doing the same thing he's been doing, which is to run on his record when he was in office. We talk about it's okay to accept money from the private sector, but when you are working as a private company or an individual, it's quite a different thing than accepting money as a government official. We have so much of that going on. That's really the nails we ought to be driving, is into public officials that accept money.
Okay, Darcy, let's have you chime in on this.
Well, I would say Newt Gingrich has many problems. Things will continue to come out of his closet. If we look at his ethical violations back when he was in office, more is to come. And unfortunately, I hope that he keeps doing what he's doing, and that is he will implode, and just expect nothing less from Newt. He will actually come in 3rd in Iowa. Ron Paul will win Iowa. You have Mitt Romney will likely take New Hampshire. But then from there, we're headed down south. And I think Ron Paul stands to come in 1st, likely coming up in South Carolina, if not 2nd. Newt Gingrich, his numbers continue to fall and drop, and this race will come down to Mitt Romney and Ron Paul.
She's right. And if I could say, if you had a chart right now of Newt Gingrich's numbers, you could ski down that chart. Absolutely. It's a cliff. He's in absolute free fall, and he's not going to come back.
Okay, 3. We appreciate it very, very much. Well, more for you coming up in the next hour on the CW30 during the 7 o'clock hour. Thank you very much. We appreciate all the talking, and let's send things election. So this morning we've got this panel of experts here, GOP insiders from Utah, talking about what we just heard. So I want to start with you, Darcy. Newt Gingrich, you hear what he has to say. To me, what do you have to say to that? Is that just crazy talk? What's going on?
Look, Newt Gingrich is one pull away from the political graveyard. He is just a completely deplorable candidate. I don't even think anybody truly conservative even is considering him. All you have is the media propping him up because the liberal left would love him to be the nominee, so they can easily destroy him, and then we can have 4 more years of Obama. His polls are dropping significantly. The man's done.
Okay, Merlyn, you are. I'll get to you, Greg. Don't you worry. But I want to get Merlyn in here. He is a Newt Gingrich supporter. What do you say to Darcy's viewpoints of Newt?
Well, I've seen Newt implode before. He does that. That is his way. But still, he did some great things when he was under pressure in the House.
But he did. That's the key word, is did. Can he do great things now?
I don't. No one thinks. The criticism is that Gingrich isn't different now than he was then. Well, then he did some great things for this country, and I still think he could do a great job now.
Okay, we appreciate that. Now, Greg, you wanted to chime in before, so we'll give you your time.
You know, Newt has gone from 38 to 17 in 3 weeks. He's taken a lot of lead. He's taken it from
earlier you
all
said
sides.
you could ski down
You
this
could
slope.
ski down that chart. He's absolutely collapsing. He's in free fall. And I honestly, we had to work hard to find a Gingrich supporter in Utah. We couldn't find one. So I think it's Romney and Paul. I think, anybody who's following the race knows that, in Iowa right now, it's going to be Mitt Romney with his machine and Ron Paul. And that's going to be where the action is. Newt Gingrich is done. He's not even on the ballot in his home state of Virginia. I think that says it all. Like Darcy referenced earlier, if you can't even get organized enough to get on the ballot, probably not time to run for president. Probably not time to run for president.
Okay, now we talk about Ron Paul and Mitt Romney. What do you think will happen next week, Darcy?
Look, Ron Paul will win Iowa, and then he'll be in a great position heading into New Hampshire. I know that Mitt Romney is polling very high in New Hampshire. I would definitely say Ron Paul takes Iowa and Mitt Romney takes second. And then in New Hampshire, you're going to have Mitt Romney take first, and then Ron Paul take second. Moving into South Carolina, I think that you'll have Ron Paul absolutely take South Carolina and Romney second.
Okay, now you are a Ron Paul supporter. Let's make sure we make that very, very clear here. So let's get Merlyn in quick, and then we'll get you in, Greg, as well. Merlyn, do you agree with Darcy's predictions?
I do.
Yes.
I do.
So although you support Newt Gingrich, you don't believe he will get the nomination?
Yes, that's right. And I think it's time sometimes in reporting for us to talk about who's the best guy. What we spend most of our time is about who's going to win, and that's sometimes a different subject.
Okay.
So no, I fully agree. I think that Darcy's right on.
Okay, no, we got to wrap up before we do. I got to give Greg here because he's just, I can see him pouncing here.
Well, Mitt Romney didn't even compete in the straw poll over the summer that Ron Paul did, and in fact almost won. So if unexpectedly, if Mitt is able to pull off an upset in Iowa, and he marches into New Hampshire with a double-digit 2-to-1 lead right now, it's over. After those two states, I think it's over. We've never had a Republican nominee win 49 or 50 of the 50 states. Romney could be the first to do it. So I think it's Romney by a mile.
Okay, so that's what we all think. We'll talk more to our friends who are coming up in the next hour.